Nadia Osefontaine dumped her iced coffee on the floor, not beside the mop bucket, not near the drain, right in front of it, and smiled. "Oops," she said. "Better get that before it stains." The woman holding the mop was 28 years old. Her name badge said Rhea Mensah. She had been on shift since 5:30 in the morning. It was now 7:42. She looked at the coffee spreading across the white marble tile of the Hargrove Tower lobby, looked at Nadia and said, "Of course, I'll take care of it." Nadia walked away, already typing on her phone. What Nadia did not know, what none of the 47 employees of Hargrove Capital Management who passed through that lobby every morning knew, was that the woman mopping the floor was not in the strictest sense a janitor. Her name was not Rhea Mensah. That was her mother's surname, worn like a disguise, sewn into the name tag. Her full name was Rhea Mensah-Hargrove. She was the sole heir to Hargrove Capital Management, and she had been cleaning their floors for 3 years. The firm occupied 11 floors of a glass tower in downtown Toronto, on King Street West, 2 blocks from the financial district's core. 47 employees, $1.8 billion in assets under management. The kind of place where the lobby plants were replaced every 2 weeks, and the coffee machine on the 8th floor cost more than most people's first cars. The founder's name was on the building, Douglas Hargrove. Everyone knew the name. Most of them had never seen his face in person. Only in the framed black and white photograph mounted near the elevators, a lean man in his late 50s, standing in front of the building the year it opened. Nobody looked at that photograph closely. Nobody connected the young woman pushing the cleaning cart to the man in the frame. Douglas Hargrove had retired 4 years ago, formally, on paper, after a minor stroke that had left him with a tremor in his left hand, and a deep, unshakable suspicion that the people running his firm were not the people he had thought they were. He had built Hargrove Capital from nothing, a black man from Scarborough who had started in the mailroom of a Bay Street firm at 19, worked his way into accounting, passed his CFA on the 3rd try, borrowed $70,000 from his mother's retirement savings and his own, and launched the firm out of a 2-room office on Adelaide Street in 1991. 33 years, every percentage point of growth, every client account, every piece of furniture in the lobby, his. When he stepped back, he did not sell. He transferred day-to-day control to his chief operating officer and handed the remaining decision-making authority to his daughter. Quietly, legally, with almost no fanfare. Rhea had asked him once, sitting in the kitchen of his house in Oakville, why he had chosen her, and not one of the 5 senior partners who had been there for decades. He had looked at her for a long time. Then he said, "Because you're the only one who ever learned my mother's name." His mother, Adeline Mensah-Hargrove, had worked as a cleaning woman in hospital corridors for 22 years. She had raised Douglas on her own, in a 2-bedroom apartment in Scarborough, on a wage that did not leave room for mistakes. She had died the year before the firm opened. She never saw any of it. Rhea had grown up knowing that story the way other children know nursery rhymes. She knew it by heart before she knew what asset management meant. When her father handed her the firm, she had one condition. Not for him. For herself. She wanted to walk the floors the way he used to, before the stroke, before the title got too heavy to move quietly. She wanted to know the people who worked for her the way her grandmother had known the people she worked for, not from a boardroom, but from the floor. She got a uniform. She wore her mother's maiden name on the badge. She showed up at 5:30. That had been 3 years ago. Only 2 people at Hargrove Tower knew the truth. The first was Winston Adebayo, the building's head of security, a soft-spoken man in his 60s who had worked for Douglas Hargrove for 19 years, and who greeted Rhea every morning with a small, careful nod that meant nothing to anyone watching the monitors. The second was her father's personal assistant, a woman named Claudette Okonkwo-Reid, who managed the firm's board calendar from a quiet office on the 11th floor and who had never in 3 years asked Rhea a single unnecessary question. Everyone else saw Rhea Mensah, a quiet, efficient cleaning woman who arrived before they did and left after they did and never said much beyond good morning and excuse me. The morning of the coffee incident, Rhea finished mopping the lobby, changed her mop water, and went up to the 4th floor, finance and operations, to begin her rounds. She was wiping down the kitchen counter when she heard Nadia Fontaine telling the story to 2 colleagues at the breakfast table. She just stood there, Nadia was saying. Literally just looked at me. Like, do your job? I don't have time for someone to freeze because coffee spilled. The 2 colleagues laughed. One of them, a man named Brett Sinclair, junior analyst, 26, who had been at the firm for 8 months, laughed the loudest. Classic, Brett said. How long do you think before they replace her? She moves like my grandfather. HR's been looking for a reason, Nadia said. Honestly, I'd file a complaint myself, but it's not worth the paperwork. Rhea kept wiping the counter. She had learned, over 3 years, that the most important thing was to keep moving. Not because she was afraid, because stillness drew attention, and attention ended the experiment. She had also learned over 3 years to count faces. By Wednesday, it had become something with a name. Brett Sinclair had started a private group chat. 14 people by the end of Tuesday, 22 by Wednesday morning. He called it the Tortoise Watch. People posted photos. Rhea at the elevator. Rhea in the stairwell eating her lunch. Rhea refilling her cart in the supply room. Someone had timed her mopping the 4th floor kitchen and posted a stopwatch screenshot with the caption, 17 minutes, someone page palliative care. Nadia had not started the group chat, but she had joined it within the first hour. She had not posted the worst things, but she had reacted to them, liked them, encouraged the ones that made the room laugh. The worst thing happened Thursday. Rhea was cleaning the boardroom on the 6th floor, a long room with a glass wall overlooking King Street, 8 black leather chairs, a screen at one end. She was wiping down the table when the door opened and 4 of them came in. Brett, Nadia, a woman named Kayla Drummond from Client Services, and a man named Spencer Royce, a senior associate who had been at the firm for 6 years and who was, by every account, well liked. They were not supposed to be in the boardroom. There was no meeting scheduled. They stopped when they saw Rhea. Brett looked at Kayla. Kayla looked at Spencer. Something passed between them that Rhea had seen before, the specific look of people who have an audience and a habit and a decision to make. Spencer made the decision. He pulled a coffee cup from the tray he was carrying, a full cup, hot from the machine upstairs, and set on the section of the table Rhea had just cleaned. He looked at her. You missed a spot, he said. Then he picked up the cup and poured it. The 4 of them stood and watched her clean it up. None of them said anything. They just watched, and after a while Brett started a slow clap, and Kayla laughed, and Nadia stood against the wall with her arms crossed, not laughing but not leaving, and Spencer checked his watch and said, "Time her." Rhea cleaned the table. She did not say a word. Her right hand was shaking slightly, not from fear but from the effort of holding herself still inside. When she finished, she gathered her cloth, picked up her cart, and moved toward the door. She stopped. She turned around. She looked at the 4 of them, not quickly, not angrily. Slowly. She looked at each face the way her father had taught her to look at a balance sheet, find everything, miss nothing. Spencer met her eyes. He smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was something worse. It was an indifferent one. Rhea said quietly, "Thank you." Spencer blinked. For what? For showing me what I needed to see. She left. Winston was in the hallway by the elevators when she came out. He had not been there by coincidence. He had seen the group on the monitor and walked up. He looked at her. She gave a small shake of her head. Not yet. He nodded. He handed her a bottle of water without a word. Friday was payday. At Hargrove Capital Management, paychecks were direct deposited. The slips were distributed digitally, through the HR portal. Nobody handed out envelopes. Nobody gathered in a boardroom. It was routine, frictionless, invisible. On Thursday evening, Claudette Okonkwo-Reid sent a calendar invitation to all 47 employees. It read, Mandatory all-staff meeting. Friday 10 a.m. Boardroom 11A, 11th floor. Attendance required. No exceptions. The invitation came from D. Hargrove, office of the chairman. By Friday morning, the speculation on the group chat had moved from Rhea entirely to the meeting. People assumed a merger announcement, a restructuring. Someone had heard the firm was acquiring a smaller wealth management company out of Vancouver. Brett Sinclair posted a gif of a man in a tuxedo, with the caption "Promotion, CN." At 9:15, Rhea arrived at the building through the service entrance. Winston was at the door. "They're already talking," he said. "Good," she said. "Let them." She went to the 11th floor the way she always did, service elevator, side hallway. Claudette was waiting outside the boardroom with a garment bag and a level expression. "Your father called at 8, Claudette said. "He wanted to come. I told him no. He has a physio appointment." "I know. That's what I told him." Claudette handed over the garment bag. "He said to tell you that you have already proven everything worth proving. He said to tell you just be Adeline's granddaughter up there." Rhea took the bag. She stood in the small washroom off the chairman's office, the office that was hers now, though she had never once sat in it in her uniform, and she changed. Dark blazer, white shirt, her grandmother's ring, a thin gold band with a small garnet, on her right hand. The ring had come to her through her father, through his mother, worn smooth on the inside from decades of work. She looked at herself in the mirror. She thought about her grandmother, scrubbing the floors in a hospital corridor in Scarborough. She thought about the year her father borrowed money from that same woman's retirement savings. She thought about the photograph in the Langises. She thought about the photograph in the lobby, the building, the marble, the 47 people waiting upstairs. She picked up the folder Claudette had prepared and walked into the boardroom. The room was full by 5 minutes to 10. 47 people. Most had never been to the 11th floor. They stood near the windows looking at the city, or sat at the long table, or leaned against the wall checking their phones. The energy was curious, slightly anxious, the way a room feels when the rules haven't been stated yet. The chair at the head of the table was empty. At exactly 10 o'clock, the door opened. Rhea walked in. She did not rush. She walked the length of the room the way she had learned to walk, a floor with a cleaning cart. Steadily, unhurried, taking in everything. Most of the 47 people had no reaction at all. They did not recognize her. She was wearing different clothes. She was standing straight in a way that the uniform somehow discouraged. Then Nadia Osefontaine looked up from her phone. The phone lowered. Brett Sinclair, 2 seats down the table, followed her gaze. His face went through 3 expressions in under 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, and something that had no clean name. Kayla Drummond put her hand flat on the table, as if she needed something to hold on to. Spencer Royce looked at the chair at the head of the table, looked at Rhea, looked at the framed documents on the wall. One of them a certificate of incorporation, Hargrove Capital Management, founded 1991, by Douglas Mensah-Hargrove and family, and something shifted behind his eyes. Rhea sat down. She opened the folder in front of her. She did not look up immediately. She took a moment. The room was very quiet. Then she looked up, and she addressed the room. "My name is Rhea Mensah-Hargrove. I am the majority shareholder and acting executive chair of this firm. Most of you have met me before. I have been here every weekday for 3 years, and I have learned a great deal about this company. Some of what I have learned, I am proud of. Some of what I have learned brought me to this table today." She paused. "I want to begin by thanking the people in this room who, over 3 years, said good morning, who said excuse me, who stepped aside in the hallway, who held the elevator door without checking first whether it was worth their time. I noticed every one of you. I remember your names." A woman near the back of the room, Josephine Adlam, from the mailroom operations team, 23 years old, who had started 4 months ago, and who had twice in that time gone out of her way to help Rhea carry supplies up the stairwell, pressed her hands together in her lap and stared at the table. "I also want to be honest about why we are here," Rhea continued. "This week, A group of employees at this firm organized a campaign to humiliate a member of the cleaning staff. I am going to show you what that looked like. She nodded at Claudette, standing near the door. The screen at the far end of the room came to life. The footage was from the 6th floor boardroom. Thursday afternoon. 4 people around the table. Spencer pouring the coffee, the slow clap. Kayla laughing. Nadia against the wall, the woman on the other side of the table, cleaning in silence, her hand shaking. The room watched without sound. When the footage ended, Rhea let the silence stay for a moment. I want to be clear, she said. I am not here because I was embarrassed. I have been cleaning your floors for 3 years, and I was not embarrassed once. I am here because what you saw on that screen is not the behavior of people who should be managing other people's money, or other people's careers, or anything that belongs to someone who is not in the room to defend it. She turned to Claudette. A second document appeared on the screen. Employment files. A list of names. What you are looking at, Rhea said, is the personnel record of 8 employees who left this firm in the last 2 years. All of them were Black or South Asian. All of them were over 55. All of them were performance managed out of their positions by the same 2 members of this team. All of them had clean reviews for years before the process began. The pattern was flagged by our external auditors 7 months ago. I have spent those 7 months watching to see how deep it went. She looked directly at the head of HR. A man named Oliver Prescott, 41, who had been at the firm for 4 years, and who had, in that time, quietly and methodically reconstructed the demographics of the workforce in a direction that no single change could prove, but that the sum of them could. Oliver Prescott's face did not move. Mr. Prescott, Rhea said. You have a termination letter on your chair. Legal is in the room. The 8 former employees will be contacted today. We will be offering reinstatement to those who want it, and full back pay with interest to all of them. A class action review begins Monday. Oliver Prescott did not look at the letter. He looked at the table. The firm's legal counsel, a woman named Frances Yaboa Cooper, who had been at the table the entire time without speaking, slid a second document across the polished surface. You'll want to read that before you leave the building, she said. Don't leave without reading it. He did not respond. He had gone very still. Rhea turned then to the 4 people from the boardroom footage. Spencer Royce had not moved since the video ended. He sat with both hands on the table, looking at the space in front of him. Mr. Royce, Rhea said, you have been here 6 years. You were considered for a senior director position last quarter. That consideration is withdrawn effective today. You are being placed on a disciplinary review. Whether you remain at this firm depends entirely on the next 6 months, and I want to be honest with you. The bar is high. Spencer nodded once. He looked up. His face was different from the boardroom Thursday. Smaller somehow, without the audience doing anything useful for him. Rhea looked at Brett Sinclair. Brett was 26 years old, and he looked in this moment like he was 19. The group chat has been archived, she said. Every message, every reaction. You created it, Mr. Sinclair. You will also be placed on a disciplinary review. I am not going to tell you today what happens at the end of it. I am going to tell you this. I read every message. I read your name beside things you did not write, and I read your name beside things you chose to react to. And I want you to sit with the difference between those 2 things, because right now I do not think you understand it. Brett's jaw moved. No sound came out. Rhea turned last to Nadia Ose-Fontaine. Nadia had been crying since the footage ended. Not loudly. Just steadily, the way a person cries when they already knew this was coming, and still could not prepare for it. Mrs. Ose-Fontaine, Rhea said, do you know why I am saying your name last? Nadia shook her head. Because I watched the footage 4 times, and the moment I keep coming back to is not the morning in the lobby. It is Thursday in the boardroom. Because you stood against the wall, and you did not pour anything, and you did not clap, and you did not time me. But you also did not leave. And you did not say a word. Nadia pressed her hand over her mouth. I think you are not a cruel person, Rhea said. I think you are a person who has not yet learned that silence in that room is not neutrality. It is permission. And I think you know that now, so I will not say it again." She slid a folder across the table. "You have two options. The first is a formal written warning and a transfer to a different team, with no further action, pending no further incidents. The second is a voluntary enrollment in the firm's professional development program. 12 weeks, external facilitation, focused on workplace dignity and ethical leadership. If you complete it, the warning is removed from your file. If you go on to a leadership role at any point in your career, that experience will matter more than you think right now." Nadia opened the folder. She read it. "The second one," she said. Her voice was very small. Rhea nodded. "Then that is what we'll do." The town hall lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 47 people filed out of the 11th floor and back into the building they worked in every day, and everything in it looked the same and nothing felt the same. At 11 o'clock, Rhea went down to the lobby. She stood for a moment in front of the photograph of her father. The lean man in his late 50s, standing outside the building the year it opened, one hand in his jacket pocket, a look on his face that she had spent 30 years trying to name. Winston came to stand beside her. "Your father is going to call the moment physio ends," he said. "I know. What are you going to tell him?" She looked at the photograph for a moment longer. "I'm going to now tell him the floors are clean." Winston laughed. It was a real laugh, quiet and long. He folded his arms. "One more thing," he said. He handed her a folded piece of paper. "Josephine Adlam, from Mailroom Ops. She slipped this under my door this morning before the meeting. She did not know about the meeting when she wrote it." Rhea unfolded it. "I don't know if this is the right thing to do, or if you'll ever see this, but I wanted to say, you work harder than anyone on this floor, and I have never once seen you get a thank you. So, thank you." Rhea stood in the lobby for a while after Winston walked back to his desk. Then she folded the note and put it in her jacket pocket. The weeks that followed moved like water, finding a new level. Oliver Prescott was gone by the end of the day. The 8 former employees were contacted by Francis Yeboah Cooper's office that same afternoon. 3 of them were in a position to return. 2 did. The others accepted the settlement. One man, a portfolio analyst named Raymond Achibi, who had given the firm 14 years and had been managed out at 61 with a manufactured performance file, used his portion of the back pay to take his wife on the trip to Ghana they had been postponing for a decade. He sent a brief email to Claudette from Accra that said, simply, "Please thank her for us." Spencer Royce completed his disciplinary review and was not offered the director position. He remained at the firm in a reduced capacity. He was quieter than he had been. He did not object to the quietness. Brett Sinclair resigned 6 weeks later. He found a position at another firm. On his last day, he knocked on the door of Rhea's office, the chairman's office on the 11th floor, which she had finally begun to actually use, and stood in the doorway. "I wanted to say I was sorry," he said. "Not because I had to, because I've been thinking about it since the meeting, and I keep thinking about what it looked like." From outside, Rhea looked at him for a moment. "What did it look like?" she said. He thought about it. "Like we thought we were the only real people in the room." "Yes," she said. "That's exactly what it looked like." He left. Nadia Osi-Fontaine completed the 12-week program. The facilitator, a woman who ran workplace ethics training across the country and who had, over the years, seen every variation of institutional cowardice, sent Rhea a brief note at the end. She asked harder questions than anyone I've had. "You might want to consider what you do with that." Rhea considered it. 8 months after the boardroom, she offered Nadia a position on the firm's new internal culture review committee, a group she had assembled to do ongoing review of HR practices, hiring patterns, and retention data, reporting directly to her office. Nadia accepted without hesitation. She showed up to the first meeting 10 minutes early, with 3 pages of notes. Rhea watched her across the table and thought, this is the actual work. Not the meeting. Not the footage. This, the part where a person who did a wrong thing decides, slowly and without an audience, to become the kind of person who would not do it again. In the spring, the firm launched the Rhea Mensah Scholarship, named for Rhea's grandmother, $100,000 annually, awarded to the children of essential service workers, cleaning staff, security personnel, food service workers, transit operators, anywhere in the Greater Toronto Area. Applications were open to any field of study. At the announcement event held in the lobby of the building, Rhea spoke briefly. She did not use notes. She said, "My grandmother cleaned hospital floors for 22 years. She raised my father in a 2-bedroom apartment in Scarborough, on a wage that did not leave room for mistakes. She died before she saw what he built, but everything he built, and everything I have tried to steward, begins with her hands, and with the particular kind of dignity that belongs to a person who works hard at something the world has decided is invisible." She paused. "It is not invisible. It never was. We simply have to learn to see it." In the audience, Josephine Adlam, who had been invited personally by Claudette without any explanation until she arrived, sat in the 3rd row and heard her own name called. She was the first recipient of the scholarship. She would use it to finish her business degree. She would, 6 years later, return to Hargrove Capital as a junior analyst. She would, on her first day, take the elevator to the 4th floor and hold the door for the woman pushing the cleaning cart, because that was the kind of thing she had been taught early on by a woman whose name she had not yet known. 3 months after the announcement, on a Monday morning, Rhea came in through the front entrance instead of the side. She was wearing a suit. She had a meeting at 9. She walked through the lobby the way her father used to walk it, straight through the middle, unhurried, looking at everything. A new cleaning contractor had the morning lobby shift now. A young man, maybe 22, earbuds in, polishing the brass door handles with the precise, careful strokes of someone who had been taught to do the job right. He saw Rhea coming. He took out one earbud. "Morning," he said. "Good morning," Rhea said. "Nice work on the handles." He looked at the handles, then back at her, unsure whether this was a compliment or an observation. "Thanks," he said. "Takes a bit if you want them to come out." "Right, it does," she said. "Most people don't bother." She kept walking. Winston was at the security desk. He watched her come through without saying anything, just gave the same small nod he had given every morning for 3 years, the one that meant, "I see you. The building is all right." She nodded back. She thought about her grandmother. She thought about the brass handles and the time it takes to do something right, and the vast number of people in this city who did it every day without anyone stopping to say so. She thought about the note, still folded in the pocket of the jacket hanging in her office upstairs. "I don't know if this is the right thing to do." It was, Joe. It was exactly the right thing to do. She pressed the elevator button. The doors opened. She stepped and went up to start her day.